Welcome to Out of This World exhibit. It has been the most exciting. Thank you. Thank you. It has been the most exciting exhibit that I have done. I've done many in 35 years, and this collaboration with David and I has been absolutely phenomenal. Am I okay? All right. These are my two grandkids, Addie and Cecilia. Psalm 8, verse 3, when I consider the heavens, the work of your finger, the moon and the stars that you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you should visit him. For when I was a little girl, if I was told no, I wanted it to be yes. If I was told you can't, I needed to know why. I learned persistence when I fought for my life at my birth, and I learned to trust, which has helped me and brought me to this day. This has been the most exciting and unique show I've done, and we have, two generations have collaborated with this phenomenal show. The creator of the universe is represented. And at the very end of the broad spectrum, the same God has chosen me to recreate what he has masterfully ordained. And so I present to you this opening of this Out of This World, the works of the astronomer and the artist. And with that, an extra surprise. Not a building, but a mortar and stone and ceramic held together with a mortar of hard work, the cement of persistence, and the love that only a family like this can know. We need each other. We're not rolled in the dough. We have discovered the mystery of the yeast that has enabled us to rise to the blessedness that we call family. And so I present a token to my family and to those who have known our ethnic background and known about our first bakery in Bleecker Street in Utica, New York. A new piece that I have done, and the first that I presented. And it is. Just tell me I can't, and I'll say I could. Just tell me to give up, and I'll ask you why. Tell me that you care, and I'll give you the definition of success. Thank you so much, and we love you, and we appreciate so much that you are here. Thank you.
Hey guys, everybody doing okay? Thanks for showing up, and thanks for putting up with the technical difficulty that we had with this quick slideshow. Really don't want to bore you, so I only have 157 slides for you, but so we're going to rip through them really quick. So to show you some overview of how I've arrived at some of the images that I've taken in the gallery. So I call myself an astrophotographer. Really, what that means as an amateur, I guess, if you break the word down, for the love of, you know, there's no pay in it for me. It's really a passionate hobby. So it can be so passionate that there should be a Surgeon General's warning. And there's a gentleman in the audience tonight who is actually a member of one of my astronomical groups down in Lower New York, and he's laughing because he understands once you take a picture of the night sky, or once you take a look through your first look at Saturn's rings or a crater on the moon through a magnification, whether it be binoculars or telescope, you know, that's how I got hooked really into this hobby. So it could really be dangerous to your social life, and I'd like to throw a shout out to my wife Kate here, who puts up with a lot of late nights and me coming into the room at 4 a.m. you know, after a night of imaging. So
I love it. That way I don't have to share the TV.
Exactly. So she gets to watch her shows, and I'm out doing astrophotography. So has anyone ever thought of putting a camera at the end of a telescope, or has anyone here ever, obviously besides you, but okay, so that's good. So now at least, has anyone heard of light pollution? Do you know what light pollution is? Because I haven't really I never really learned about light pollution until I got involved in this, but this is basically a satellite image of the United States, and showing the major metropolitan areas, obviously, and the white represents the ambient light emanating from the metropolitan areas. And I live right there. So taking pictures we're 20 miles from Times Square, so on the New Jersey side. So taking pictures in that high ambient light, there's some tricks and techniques that you have to employ and filters to use. But I just thought I would show you this map. This is getting worse every year as the wrong kind of lights are being implemented. But the knowledge is out there, and towns and municipalities are starting to use light in a lot better way, and directional, etc. But not to bore you with that. So I just want to give you a quick overview of the three most important things that I think astrophotography and how these images were created. You have to have the right equipment, and you have to set it up correctly. It has to be done the same every single time, like a golf swing or a free throw in basketball. Image acquisition, a fancy name for taking pictures, but you have to be vigilant about it. You have to check on it. And you'll see why. And then post-processing. So this is a process that after you've acquired your images, you have to put it into sort of a digital development. I do not use film, so all of this is digital. So I employ many pieces of software to tease out the detail in the shots that I take. So equipment. This is my camera, and it's a special camera designed for astrophotography, very low light. So this thing basically can pick up light that is billions of light years away. That is not even visible to the naked eye. This right here is the CCD chip. It's actually a computer chip that sits in it. That would be associated to the typical shutter of a traditional camera. So the image is basically burned onto this chip, and the camera is connected to my computer, and that image is then downloaded to my computer. So that's really what you need to know about the actual camera. This is one of my telescopes. Sorry, honey. So one of my many telescopes. It's called a Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. Light comes in through the top here, comes down, hits a mirror here, bounces back up, and this is my camera. The light comes back up into the shutter of the camera. There is a computerized tracking system here on this mount, and basically that takes into account the counter rotation of the Earth, and it keeps my telescope tracking the object across the night sky as the object moves. While that is a very good thing to have and is very necessary to have, you still need a second telescope mounted on top of your first telescope to guide the tracking mechanism. So that's really all you need to know about that. So if you're going to do imaging, you probably need two telescopes right off the bat. You can see these wires. This is all connected to my computer, and that's how I manage this. There is one image in the gallery that is taken of the sun, and you need obviously never look at the sun with the naked eye or even through a telescope without proper filters. This is a solar imaging telescope, and it's made specifically for looking and taking pictures of the sun. It's good to have observatories. So what I mean by that is when your telescope is 6'5" and it's as big as you and it weighs almost as much as you, this is when I had some hair. I was known as the Tony Soprano of astrophotography, but God rest his soul. When you have that much equipment and it weighs that much, it could take you 2 to 3 hours to set up at the end of each night, and then take it down at the end of each. So you're talking wasted imaging time. So I'm in my shed here in New Jersey, and I've built a shed where the roof rolls off, and my scope is and my equipment is set up constantly. So if I poke my head out and I hear it's going to be a clear night, we just crank the roof off and I'm ready to go. So it's more for convenience sake if you're into this hobby. I also have a dark sky location up here in the Adirondacks, and that is a dome, and I have equipment in there set up during the season. So just to give you an idea. So very quickly, focus is important, obviously. You see these stars here. The thing to do is when you're focusing your telescope for a night of imaging, you have to make sure that these stars are the very smallest pinpoints of light as they possibly can be. And I do this by eye. Some of my colleagues think I'm crazy doing it by eye because there's software to help you do this, but I still like to keep control over that. Guiding, we talked about guiding, got to do that, and then taking the actual pictures. So the idea is to accumulate high quantity of quality sub-images, and I'll tell you what that means next. So this is what my computer looks like. These represent the images that I've taken during the night. There happen to be 16 of them. Each one is 10 minutes long. When I put them all together digitally, that's 16 times 10 minutes. That's 160 minutes of open exposure time. So this is what I will call the raw image looks like. This is of the Great Orion Nebula. Doesn't look like much, but in reality, there's a lot of detail here. But now it's ready for, you're not done. It's ready for stacking, color combining, and it's ready for post-processing. And I will put that image into, I use a software program called Adobe Photoshop, and it's basically a digital darkroom. It's the equivalent of taking a negative and bringing it into a darkroom and actually developing the picture. So after 3 or 4 hours of developing this thing in Photoshop, because you end up becoming a perfectionist, it looks something like this. So here's the raw, and here's not the finished product, but we're getting there. So you can see some nebulosity, and you can see some detail in the actual nebula. The stars take on a whole new set of colors using light curves and levels. This is almost a close to finished product, but there's still more things that need to be done. So just a very brief note about color and how I've achieved some of the images in the gallery tonight. There is something called Hubble color mapping, and what that really is, why it has the name Hubble. It was developed by the Hubble Space Telescope team to enhance the pictures that they were looking at that were coming back from Hubble, so they can actually do investigative science on them. So rather than shooting the way other color cameras do in red, green, and blue, they do it by the 3 prominent gases that are emitted through most nebula, and that's really sulfur, hydrogen, and oxygen. So they're taking, and I've taken, a lot of amateur astronomers do this, we take hydrogen and we assign it to the green channel. We take the oxygen and we assign that to the blue channel, and we take sulfur and assign that to the red channel. And that gives you an image like this is the Hubble palette with the oxygen, hydrogen, and sulfur, and this is just shot in red, green, blue. So you can see the difference. And it also makes for a pleasing picture. So it has some artistic quality to it as well. Planetary and lunar imaging, it's a lot different than deep sky stuff that I just showed you. These objects are a lot brighter. Even the planet Jupiter or Saturn are considered bright. You can see them with the naked eye. So you basically use a different piece of software, and the exposure times are a lot less. They're fractions of a second compared to hours of exposure time. So that happens to be an undeveloped glob of Saturn, and this is what the finished product looked like. Quick note, I use an astronomy program. If you're interested in this hobby and a good way to get started and learning about the night sky, there's a program called Starry Night Pro. It basically emulates the night sky from, you type in your address and your coordinates, and it shows you what your night sky looks like, and you can point out and get information on objects that happen to be in the program. So it's kind of a mini sky for your computer. Some groups that I belong to, the Rockland Astronomy Club in Lower New York is near where I live, so it's one of the bigger organizations in the Northeast. There's probably 4,000 members, always growing, and they are very, every year in April, they put on this, what they call the Northeast Astronomy Forum, and what it is one of the biggest trade shows in the country, really. They have them all over the country, but it's one of the bigger trade shows of the country where you could go and look at the latest in technology, telescope gear, camera gear. So I just thought I would show you this. They don't have the date for April 2014 pegged yet, but it's every April. I also belong to New Jersey Astronomical Group, and I did some research on, and here's the website if you're interested in coming to a local group, the Mohawk Valley Astronomical Society. Looks like a pretty good group by the looks of their website, and it's somewhere where you can go. They have telescope nights. If you don't own any equipment, you can go and take a look through a telescope and get into it and ask questions. That's me, metropolitanskies.com. If you have any questions, you can contact me there. I also have business cards that have my contact info. And I will see you in the gallery. Any questions, stop me and ask. Thanks for your attention.